first thing that you want to do is to test the performance of your website. Okay, so this is something that a lot of business owners don't even know that they're supposed to be doing. And specifically, when I say test the performance, we're talking about testing the speed of your website. Why is that important? Because believe it or not, about 25% of people will abandon a website if it takes longer than 4 seconds to load. So think about that for a second. You could be conceivably be losing about 25 out of every 100 prospective customers simply because you have a poor performing website. The other reason, in addition to the human experience, is that Google puts a lot of emphasis on the speed of a website when deciding how to rank it in the search results. And so it's really critical that, again, this is something that you pay attention to and that you are aware of your website speed. But the good news is it can easily be tested using a couple different methods, or actually a lot of different methods, but two of the most popular are Page Speed Insights as well as GTmetrix. And in both cases, all you need to do is pop in your website's URL and you will get a rating of your website. But on top of that, you're going to get specific recommendations what you need to do to improve your website. So again, this is right out of the gate, something that you're going to want to do. Because, and by the way, I mentioned Google. Apologies in advance, but I'm going to be mentioning Google a lot simply because most of the tips that I'm going to be sharing this evening are also going to make your website more Google friendly. Okay, so conceivably, I'm not going to say that's going to suddenly launch you up to the top of the search results, but it will absolutely help. And most of these are in that category. Okay, kind of on the same vein is you also want to confirm that your website is mobile friendly, meaning that make sure that it renders properly on mobile devices, so cell phones and mobile phones and tablets. Why? Because believe it or not, over 50% of searches are done today on mobile devices. No surprise, right? Everybody's walking around with their cell phones. Everyone's glued to their phones. So because of that, and Google knows this, Google knows that everybody is, again, pretty much addicted to their phones. And as a result, this is a big ranking factor as well. So you absolutely want to make sure that your website looks nice on mobile devices. So there's a real quick test. And by the way, we're going to be sending out a kind of a summary of all these different tips that I'm sharing with you tonight after the fact, so don't feel like you need to take detailed notes. But all you need to do is jump on Google and type in mobile-friendly test, and you'll get something like this. And once you pop in your website, there's a real good chance that you're going to see that your website is, in fact, mobile-friendly, but it's just a good health check that you're going to want to do on your website. Okay. Next up, this is a biggie. Make sure your website is secure. What do I mean by secure? When you go on the website and you see the words not secure, that means that the information that's being sent from the customer's computer to your web server is not encrypted, which is not a good thing. So Google hates that because it's obviously a security risk. But on top of that, it is absolutely not the right message you should be sending to prospective customers when they visit your website, because when they see the words not secure, there's a good chance they're going to run in the other direction. So let's look at a few examples. Here, ironically, is a security system company, which is not secure, which is rather curious, or business consultants, or another bit of irony, some financial advisors who are looking to invest money on your behalf, and they're also saying that they're not secure. So this, once again, is the absolute wrong message that you want to send. The good news is it's a real quick and easy fix. All you need to do is, if you do, and by the way, a little sidebar, this is probably about 20% of the small business websites that I see out there have this. This is not a corner case. This is a big deal. And I see it time and again. I've actually reached out to some businesses and say, this is something you really ought to address. But as far as addressing it, it's real simple. Just contact your hosting company and tell them that you need what's called a security certificate. They'll know what that means. Oftentimes it's free, or sometimes there's a relatively nominal fee of about 75 bucks a year. But the beauty is, once that security certificate is in place, the data between your customer's computer and the website server will be encrypted, which again is the right thing. Google loves it. And you'll also, your website's URL will change from the bottom, which is HTTP, to HTTPS, the S for secure. There again, that's what you're shooting for, and you're going to get that coveted padlock at the top just letting your website visitors know that everything's secure. So again, quick health check, jump on your website at some point. The screenshots I showed you are taken in a Chrome browser, but it's also true for Safari. They use the words not secure. Sometimes it's just an open padlock, depending on the browser. Like I think Microsoft is just an open padlock, but either way, again, something that you want to tend to. Okay, this is really a quick one. Confirm that your URLs don't have kind of gibberish in them, and it's probably unlikely that this is the case, for any of you, but just in case, all you need to do is to go on your own website, go to each and every page of your website, take a look at the URLs at the top, and make sure there's no random numbers and characters and stuff like this. And again, this does happen. These 4 companies are actually Chester County companies. I blocked out their names for obvious reasons, but it does exist. And why is it important? Well, a couple of reasons. One, it doesn't look that professional. It just kind of looks, well, unprofessional, but it also kind of looks sketch. It looks a little suspicious. People might be a little leery. Maybe they won't stick around as long. So not the end of the world, but just some, again, a good practice for a good looking website. Okay, make sure your website has a favicon. I'm probably going to teach you guys a new word tonight. So what in the world's a favicon? A favicon is that character just to the left of the company name on the browser tab. So these are 3 obviously well-known companies, and the company logos to the left, that is the favicon. So let's look at a few maybe more down-to-earth examples. The first 3 out of these 5 do a great job with the favicon, okay, showing the logos there, but the other 2, not so much. So if you've built your website on WordPress and you don't designate a favicon, WordPress will just by default give you the WordPress W, and it doesn't look very good because unless of course your company is WordPress, it doesn't make any sense. You really want your own company's logo up there. Or oftentimes you'll get this mysterious black and white blob, again by default. So you're probably wondering, why is this important? For a few reasons. One, favicon is part of your overall branding, so it's important from that aspect. 2, not having it and having a website like that just doesn't look all that good, doesn't look all that professional. But there's a practical reason too. Like all of us, a lot of people will, when they're browsing, will have many, many tabs open, maybe 6, 8, 12 tabs. And when that happens, the tabs shrink down and the name disappears, and the only thing that shows is the favicon. So you need to give your website visitors a means to get back to your website, and if there's only a W or a big black and white blob, it's going to be more difficult. So there's a practical reason as well. Adding a favicon is real simple. You just need a perfectly square version of your logo, and you can upload it to your website, and all that goes away. But just something that you want to take a look at. Often too, believe it or not, I even see website companies that don't even have a favicon. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. So maybe going forward, you guys will start picking up on this when you look at other websites, like, hey, that guy Mike was right, they don't have a favicon. So once again, these are technical issues that really should be addressed. So let's move on to layout and design. So does your homepage instantly communicate your value proposition? So that's a bit of a mouthful, but this is an important concept. So as we said, a moment ago, you only have seconds to attract the attention of your website visitors. So it's really important that you instantly communicate what your business is all about and how your business is going to help them. And time and again, I see missed opportunities where that primary heading, which is called an H1, if you want to get, that's another term you can walk away with. So your website's primary heading is called an H1 on each page. But that primary heading is really important because your website visitors need to instantly realize that they're in the right place, that you're offering what they're looking for, and as opposed to something really vague such as this example, business moves fast. That doesn't mean anything, right? I don't know. I mean, yes, if I dug around this website for a few seconds, I could probably figure out what they do, but instantly, just by glancing at it, I have no idea. Or this other example, fresh insights. What does that mean? I don't have a clue. So again, we don't know what this company does. Now, conversely, let's look at a couple of good examples. defend your data, it's the lifeblood of your business. Well, we know instantly what they do, right? They're in the data protection business for businesses. This is great. So as soon as you land on this website, it instantly conveys what they're all about. Same with this one, celebrating our 70th year of building new homes in the Mid-South. What do? They build new homes. Where do they do it? They do it in the Mid-South, and they've been doing it for about 70 years. So boom, that H1 instantly communicates. There's another benefit, because Google, yes, Google, reads your website, and part of that is reading that H1. So it's really important that in the world of telling Google what you're all about, so whether you're a roofer, a plumber, a financial advisor, a photographer, it doesn't matter. You want to quickly or be able to make it as easy as possible for Google to figure out what business you're in. And the same, by the way, for each and every page of your website. So it's not just your home page, but on every page. So if you have different services, I'll give you an example. I built a website recently for a tree surgeon, tree service guy, whatever you might call him. And he has a page for stump grinding, and a page for tree removal, and all the different services. And each one of those, I made sure those words were in the primary heading, because again, it tells Google what it's all about, and when people land on the page, they also quickly realize, oh, this guy does stump grinding, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Here's a more local example. Here's a company in Exton. They do custom farmhouse tables, custom tables built to order. So you got the primary heading or headline, then you have handcrafted tables in the Pennsylvania farm tradition. This, along with the copy that's been written, I can tell you if you're within this area and you Google farmhouse tables near me, they're appearing on page 1, often in the first location. Not to say that just by putting a headline or a heading, you're going to quickly jump to the #1 in Google's rankings. It depends on the competitiveness of your industry, and there's a lot of variables, but without a doubt, that helps. So that's something, take a look at your website, take a look at what's called your H1, and if you're not sure what that is, whoever built your website can help you out, but absolutely something that you should take a look at. Okay, aim for easy to read and scannable content. So this is an example. This is pretty self-explanatory, but you want to limit the amount of text that you put on each page because you want to keep it short and readable. People don't read websites like you do if they would a book. They scan websites. People again have short attention spans. They just jump on a website, they scan it, and they look for the information that they're looking for or hope to find. So you certainly don't want a situation like this where it reads like a phone book, for those of you old enough to remember what a phone book is. But again, you want to use bullet points whenever possible, keep it short and sweet, and try to limit the amount of text. You're kind of walking a fine line because you'll hear often, should I be baking in my keywords, my primary phrases into the text? And the answer is absolutely yes. So there is a bit of a balance between too much text and not enough, but that's for another evening. So another tip, website, as far as the copy itself, #1 is stay away from jargon like this. I think that's safe to say, but also try to create well-written, easy to follow content and speak conversationally. So it's often said that the content on your website should be as if you're telling a friend what your business is all about. So if you're sitting down over a cup of coffee and you're saying, hey, I'm in the photography business, and how would you describe what you do? That's kind of what you're shooting for with your website copy. The other thing is create fresh and unique content, meaning by all means, don't steal someone else's content, and not just don't take it locally, but even if you found a company in California and you happen to take a look at their website and see some really good copy and say, oh, I'm going to take that. Don't, because you will get caught by Google. It would be plagiarism, and that actually dings you in the rankings. You certainly don't want that. What you can do, though, is if you see a website that you think has some good copy, you can absolutely, retool it and rework it to your own benefit. But always write fresh copy. And lastly, make sure that you test the readability of your website content. Believe it or not, the rule of thumb is not to exceed an 8th grade level when it comes to website content. I know that sounds a little odd, but that is the rule of thumb. And a lot of SEO companies, SEO is search engine optimization. I'm sure most of you guys have heard that. But the point is, even SEO companies will test the readability of your website and base it on that criteria. There's a lot of tests out there. One is called Hemingway Editor, and you can put in your website copy and it will tell you, it'll give you all sorts of ratings or indication. Is it too wordy? Is it too complicated? Stuff like that. Okay, another one. Lots of photos of happy, smiling people. What do I mean by that? Well, time and again, I see really nice websites, lots of good information, they talk about the company and the services they offer and the areas that they service, but there's just not a lot of engagement as far as people. It's just not a warm and friendly website. And mainly because it doesn't have, well, smiling, happy people on it. And that is something, believe it or not, people who visit websites kind of have come to expect. And I do see websites that are full of good information, but they're just not engaging. So what I recommend that you do is you take a look at your own website and look at each and every page, and do you have happy, smiling people? And here's an example. This is a bank, and here's a family taking a family portrait. It has nothing to do with the world of banking, but it's really what people expect. Here's wealth management. You got this young couple looking at their laptop, presumably looking at their 401k and how well it's doing. Another financial company, and you have 4 people going out to lunch. Once again, nothing to do with what they do, but it's just, it makes a website more friendly, warm, and as a result, people have to stay on it longer and hopefully convert and become customers. So take a look at your website kind of with a critical eye when it comes to that. As far as where to get such photos, there's all sorts of places. You can Google royalty-free photos or stock photos or anything like that. Some of the bigger ones are listed here. I use Adobe Photo a lot, as well as Big Stock. And as far as expense, it's next to nothing. I mean, these are $3 to $4 a photo, so for good chance for 15 bucks, you can really upgrade your website for a minimal cost. Okay. Next up, consider an FAQ section on your website. So FAQs, of course, is frequently asked questions. Why would you want to do that? Well, it gives you the opportunity to proactively address the questions and objections that you commonly get. So if you've been in business for any time over a year, there's probably a good bet that you know the same questions that people ask over and over. And it's a great idea to put them on the website proactively, because you can answer them, well, again, proactively. Why is this good? For one thing, it positions you as an expert in your field, right? So here's an example of financial planning, and by having questions and answers like that, potential customers and consumers automatically think, wow, these guys know what they're talking about, right? And secondly, from your standpoint, it maybe would eliminate a lot of repetitive questions and inquiries that you get when people are asking the same thing. And then, yes, believe it or not, in the world of SEO, it's commonly believed that by having an FAQ section, Google looks really favorably upon that, and conceivably could help set you apart from the competition and maybe rank you a little bit higher. So anyway, there's all sorts of good reasons to consider an FAQ section. So let's take a quick breather, and any questions from anybody? Adam, or not, anything yet?
Yeah, I don't have any questions online. Everybody, if you have questions for Mike, please place them in the Q&A box.
I have a question.
Oh, Raymond, yep.
So that the item for your website, for example, you said the
Favicon? No, the little icon, the favicon.
right, yeah.
How do you upload that?
Right, yeah.
So it depends on however your website was built. So if it was built on Wix or Squarespace or GoDaddy or it's on GoDaddy. So what I would recommend, I know this is going to be a lame answer, but it all depends on your website platform. So as long as you know that term favicon, I would just jump on Google and just upload favicon GoDaddy website. And undoubtedly, you're going to get that answer pretty quickly. So you'll just need it, you'll need whatever logo you intend to use, again, it's perfectly square. And there's some guidelines as far as pixels and that kind of boring stuff, but it's a big, it depends. So depending on your website platform, but you can simply Google that question and you'll get that guidance. But thank you for that. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question online.
Yeah.
What is the general consensus around posting a rate page?
What kind of page?
A rate page.
Well, I guess that's that too depends on your industry. I'm not sure what kind of company. I would say it's a big depends on the competitive situation, because by posting your rates, obviously you're completely divulging to your competition what your rates are. So you have to take that into consideration. On the other hand, maybe that's a good thing, and maybe people will be more apt to use you if they knew just how perhaps inexpensive or how reasonable you are. I don't know what industry, I don't know. I shy away from it. I don't post rates when it comes to website design or Google. We manage Google ads for companies, so although we're very inexpensive, we don't post the numbers. And again, just from a competitive standpoint, it's just not something I want to float out there. But I think it's a big, it depends. You just need to take into consideration that your competitors, not just prospective customers, will be seeing this as well. And as long as you're comfortable kind of showing the world what your rates are, then it's probably no problem with that then. Okay, is that it?
Any other questions in the room?
Okay.
All right, so please submit your questions in the Q&A box as Mike continues.
Thanks. Okay, so let's talk about trust factors, and I'll explain what trust factors are. So, as we all know, your website represents, of course, who you are and what you have to offer, obviously. But when people land on your website for the first time, they're thinking, is this site credible? Is this site trustworthy? Is this a professional company? Is this company stable? Does this website make me feel welcome? Am I even in the right place? And I'm sure a myriad of other questions. But the simple fact of the matter is you need to build trust with your audience, especially if you want them to do business with you. So how do you do that? Well, one simple way, at least one way out of the gate, is make sure your website has a privacy policy. And a privacy policy basically clearly states what data you collect and what do you do with it. And Google is all about trust, and again, that can conceivably help you. Google loves privacy policy, so I understand, but it really is about the user experience. So you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute, I'm not an e-commerce company, I'm not collecting credit card information, I'm really not taking that sensitive information, why do I need something like this? Even if you have just a basic contact form that collects emails and phone numbers, that's personal information. That's called PII, which is personal identifiable information, another term for you. But even if you're collecting something as boring or rudimentary as an email address, that is still considered personal information. So you really should be telling people what it is you do with that information. Chances are you're not selling it to a third party, but you really need to state that. So I don't want to dwell on this too long, simply because nobody reads a privacy policy. I don't suggest that they do, or that they typically do. The point is that you can easily Google privacy policy generator or free privacy policies or privacy policy template, any of those type of searches. You can basically get a template, pop in your own company name, as long as, of course, what it says reflects what you truly do, and you simply park it in the footer, which is the bottom of your website, and you're done. So it's not that big of a task, but it's just a good thing to do, and it does help build trust with your end user audience. So this is kind of both a design as well as a trust, kind of falls into two categories, but low contrast text is really bad for usability and trust. So having insufficient contrast obviously degrades the user experience, but also people are less trustworthy of text that is hard to read. I think it goes back to the days of reading the fine print or whatever, but it's kind of just in the back of people's minds that when when text is difficult to read, there's just, again, more suspicion as to what's going on. The other very practical reason is, as we mentioned earlier, 50% of people are doing searches online on their phone, right? Which means there's a good chance that they're outside, and if they're outside, they're probably in bright sunlight, and text like that is next to impossible to read. So you're gonna lose your audience there. So this is an example of too light text. So once again, quick health check on your own website. Take a look at the contrast of your text as well as the point size. Let's look at a couple other quick kind of bad examples. Here's light gray on dark gray, not a great choice in my opinion. Or actually kind of a bizarre one, purple on purple, go figure. But now here's a great example. So this is really easy to read. This is just showing you by contrast how the text jumps out. And again, especially people visiting your website remotely, sitting in their car, out and about under bright lights, it'll be a heck of a lot easier to read. So one of my favorite expressions is people don't buy from businesses, people buy from people, meaning that you really should consider having an About Us page if you don't already. And the reason being is that you really want to try to make a personal connection with your potential customers. And I see over and over websites that, again, they seem to offer good services, they seem to be great companies. However, I don't know anything about them. And especially for e-commerce companies, people really like to buy from a person as opposed to just this faceless company. So if you don't already, I highly recommend having, if not an About Us page, but at a minimum, some sort of About Us paragraph that just maybe shows you and talks a little bit about you. Because again, it helps. People love to see, oh, this is the person behind the company. Here's another example, happy people, great headshots, big smiles, these financial advisors. Or here's one last example, Anne Von Jewelry. I don't know anything about jewelry, but from what I understand, she's gotten pretty big. She's now coast to coast. But the point is that the About Us page shows or tells all about their story and how they started and that kind of stuff. People love that stuff. So any backstory that you can give as to, how you got into engineering, how you got into photography, whatever your background is, feel free to, put it on there because people love that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, wow, okay, this is who I'm going to be working with. And to kind of even up it a notch, if you really want to get creative, highly recommend considering putting a video on your website. So if you want a good example of a video, if you ever go to Carolina Farm Table, it's actually one of my customers. They're down in North Carolina. But a great video as to how they are a second generation furniture company and it really makes that connection, makes that bond. But even if you're thinking, well, you know what, I don't have the money to hire a videographer and spend that kind of dough for, this big elaborate video, even if you just do something with your iPhone for now, even if it's just a minute and a half long. In fact, I plan on putting a video on my website for that same reason, just letting people know that, hey, this is who you're going to be dealing with, good or bad. But the point is, people love that stuff, and you really make a personal connection with your potential audience when you're talking to them, and again, explaining what you do and that. But I'll tell you also, Google, you guessed it, Google loves videos, in part probably because Google owns YouTube. Chances are your video is going to reside on YouTube, but they see that as a differentiator. So if you have a bunch of companies doing the same thing, right? So if you got a bunch of plumbers or lawn care, landscapers or whatever, but you get somebody with a video that helps without a doubt, help them stand out from the crowd. So something to absolutely consider. All right. Quick break. Anything on the home stretch, guys?
Yeah, I've got one question online here.
Good.
I'm a consultant and have worked with Fortune 100 and 500 companies who view my services as a competitive advantage, so sometimes they hesitate to provide a testimonial. I've respected them by not posting their logos and use general terms when uploading client success stories to protect their anonymity. So the question is, how powerful are customer logos, and should I consider loading them to the bottom in a carousel fashion?
So, first of all, thank you for that question, because we're about to talk about testimonials. So great segue into something that's about to come up. The answer is yes and yes. So testimonials are huge, a little preview of coming attractions. I do believe in carousels. I'm building a website right now for a company in Wayne, actually, and she deals with big names like Comcast and the like, and we're adding a carousel of logos for her. As far as if you have any reluctance about using, at a minimum, put the person's first name and last initial. I'm a big believer in that. A lot of people don't want to have their full name on a testimonial, and I can appreciate that, but just, it adds credibility. I would not recommend just having the testimonial without any reference at all, because it does kind of, not suggest, but there's a suspicion that you just kind of made up the quote. At a minimum, you know, have it say, you know, Kimberly R. or whatever. So, and as far as the company name, if you can get them to agree to say, yes, you know, I'm with NBC Universal or Comcast or whatever, that's all well and good. But if they're reluctant to do that, well, you can't really do much. But that's, again, we're going to touch upon testimonials, but hopefully that addresses your question. Anything else, Adam?
Just one, you know, more of a statement from one of our online participants is, she says she likes to obtain video-based testimonials from business owners and customers for her website.
Great suggestion, and you know what, I should add that to this. Yes, without a doubt, if you're, the better thing to do, if you can get not just regular, not verbal, but written testimonials, I mean, that in itself is terrific. But if you can get them to actually videotape, or if you can get videotaped testimonials that you can add to your website, that's super powerful. My only reluctance with that is if you ask them to do it themselves, there's a good chance they're not going to be that great. And maybe because I was telling Raymond, who's here in the audience, I have a somewhat photography background, and I'm really critical about the video quality and stuff like that. From the standpoint, you might have somebody with their back to a window, so now they're backlit, and they're not showing properly, or maybe there's some clutter in the background that doesn't look all that good. If bottom line, if you're not controlling the situation yourself, I think you kind of run, it could be a hodgepodge of quality. That's kind of my take or my opinion. I've seen this too. When you just ask somebody, oh, you take your iPhone, you're going to get them out in a parking lot doing it, the wind's blowing and the audio could be lousy. Not to be kind of Debbie Downer on the whole idea of them doing it themselves, but in a perfect world, if you can go to their location and actually film it, and again, kind of control things a little bit, control the lighting, control the sound, control the setting, then without a doubt, video testimonials are fantastic. The only other tip that I would say is keep them short. People, again, have short attention spans. They don't want to watch a 6-minute video of someone raving about how wonderful your company is, but if they can give you a nice, short, encapsulated testimonial to say, hey, working with Adam is the best, and he's done a great job for a company, that's fantastic. That is a home run. So without a doubt, thank you for that statement and suggestion. Okay, anything else before we move on?
That's all we have here, so
Okay.
keep your questions coming.
Okay, guys, we're on the home stretch. Conversion boosters. So first of all, definition, what is a conversion? So a conversion is any desirable action that you want your website visitors to take, okay? So I know that sounds broad brush, but it is. Obviously, if you're an e-commerce company and you're selling product, well, a conversion is obvious. You made a sale, somebody bought something, well, that's easy. But a conversion could be anything. So if someone fills out your contact form, that's a conversion, which is a lead. Actually, if they pick up the phone and call you, obviously that's too a good thing. But a conversion could be something as boring as maybe you're a wedding photographer and you have a document that you posted on your website like, hey, 10 tips for making your special day all that more special. And every time someone downloads it, you capture their name and their email address. That too is a conversion. So anyway, there's lots of ways to increase conversions, and we're going to talk about those. So if you are an e-commerce company, and I'll try to make this quick because there's a good chance that this does not apply to many of you, but if you're taking any type of credit card information, which you are, highly recommend putting on each and every product page some sort of confirmation that, hey, your information is going to be secure, you can buy with confidence, all that stuff. Chances are you're using a platform like Shopify or WooCommerce or any of the other biggies, which obviously are secure, but it doesn't hurt to tell your consumers that, hey, worry not, you're in good hands. We're not going to, you're not going to lose your credit card information. So it could be the difference between somebody taking out their credit card and making a sale, or you making a sale and not. Another thing that you might want to consider is offering some sort of guarantee. Why? Because that really lowers the bar of when it comes to, or the threshold for the risk factor, if you will. So if someone knows that, hey, I can buy with confidence, and if I don't like it, they're going to take it back, you're much more apt to make a sale. But you're probably thinking, well, hold on, I'm a small company. I certainly am not in the position to be taking back a lot of product. I would argue that try it for a few months even. And by the way, you can buy logos like this, same places like Big Stock and the other stock photo places like Satisfaction Guaranteed, 60-day returns and all this type of stuff. But what I'm saying is that I do believe that the additional sales that you would get would far outweigh the very few returns you get. And if you don't believe it, we've all seen infomercials for exercise equipment, right? Oh, try it at home for 90 days, you're going to return it. Nobody returns it. And they know that. So something to consider if you're an e-commerce company, maybe, and again, it might drive sales. One last thing is show a physical address on your website. I do see a lot of websites that there's no indication where the company is. That's just kind of weird. You don't necessarily need to put your street address, and obviously I understand if you're reluctant to do that, you're a small company, or you don't want to advertise to the world exactly where you are, but in my case, in the case of our business, we have Chester Springs, Pennsylvania, and people just want to know roughly where you are, as opposed to, are they in California, are they in Phoenix, are they in Dallas? And so, if nothing else, from a trust standpoint, people are more apt to say, oh my gosh, right here in Chester County, and again, it kind of builds that trust, and it could drive conversions. Okay, calls to action, or CTAs. Let's talk about those. This is huge. You need to tell your website visitors what they should do next. And I know that sounds weird, but I've seen a lot of even very nice websites. They check all the boxes, good copy, good photos, everything's great. But you scroll down on that home page and it just ends. It's like, you need to tell them explicitly what it is you want them to do, whether it's to pick up the phone or fill out a form or whatever. And you do want them to be big and bold and not just on the home page, but on every page. And without a doubt, this can have a huge impact on your conversion rate. So if there's any other takeaway from this evening, take a look at your website and make sure that not just at the bottom of the page, but throughout, calls to action. So, ready to get started, give us a call, that type of stuff. And I even put contact forms in the middle of a page. So as somebody's scrolling down and they stumble upon it, I put a contact form, as a ribbon. And I can give you some examples if you want. We just launched a couple of websites that are beautiful and give real good examples of that. So let's take a look at some examples of what I mean by CTAs. So this is a basement waterproofing company, and it has arguably 3 different calls to action before people even scroll down at all. So you have learn more about us, get a free estimate with some phone numbers, and get a free estimate for a form. So obviously they want you to request a free estimate, pretty obvious. But if you don't have something like that, if you don't put in their face like, yeah, call today for a free estimate, you need to explicitly tell them what you want. Here's a software company, sign up for free. Again, no ambiguity what they're looking for you to do. More calls to action. This is a newsletter, a healthy food newsletter. Once again, subscribe now. There's no doubt what they want you to do, and once again, here's yet another basement waterproofing company. And same thing, contact us, get a free estimate. So a call to action can be a button that takes them to your contact page. It could just be like, hey, contact us. It could be a contact form that you bake on into the various pages. It could be just putting your phone number. You can also mix up the copy. It doesn't have to be just contact us. It gets kind of boring. You want to get a little creative. And it could be, as I say, like, okay, you ready to get started, or let's make it happen. Any of that stuff, and mix it up, but it makes a difference. I'll give you a quick example. We looked at that company in Exton, the Custom Farmhouse Table Company. That was a website that we built about 1.5 years ago. And only about 2 weeks ago, I added a contact form in the footer. So if you went to their website, if you go to their website, Pennsylvania Farm Tables, and if you go to the bottom, you're gonna see a contact form at the very, very bottom. And because even though I had some CTAs peppered throughout the homepage, nonetheless, I had good luck with this with another customer, so I reached out to this one and said, hey, what do you say we try adding a contact form? And already we're seeing results. We have, because we put in a trigger that we can tell when it came from the footer, and we're already seeing leads coming in, which is like a thing of beauty. So it works. So CTAs, call to actions, if nothing else, that could really be the difference between how many customers pick up the phone or fill out your contact form. Okay, now we hit testimonials. Testimonials work, without a doubt. They instantly add credibility. People love to read them. If you want to get technical in the world of marketing, it's called social proof. But let's face it, we all read testimonials, right? We all buy from Amazon. I don't know about you, but I don't buy as much as a pair of shoelaces without looking at 12 different reviews. Maybe not, but we do look at reviews, all of us. And that is really important to have on your website. Every website I build, I, without a doubt, put testimonials. So, you know, if it's a landscape company or again, tree surgeon, I just built one for a chimney sweep company up in Montgomery County, and pepper testimonials throughout. Why? Because your website's going to tell all about you and what your company does and, you know, the things that you do, which is all well and good, but the one thing it's not telling is what do your customers think about you? And so by putting them front and center on your website, you're letting people know, like, hey, not only do we offer these great services, but on top of that, people love us. And to read the testimonials just gives them the peace of mind that they're making the right buying decision by going with your company. Right? So as opposed to somebody else. Now you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute, I have reviews on Google Business, right? I have a Google Business profile, I have reviews. Can't people just see them there? Yes and no. Your Google Business profile only shows up when somebody Googles your business by name. So if somebody jumps on Google right now and types in Customer Journey Pros, yes, my business profile comes up and you'll see some wonderful reviews. But people aren't necessarily going to see that, so you want to put those reviews, again, you can take them right from your Google profile. But anyway, really important because it builds trust. It again helps people confirm that they're making the right buying decision. So we've all seen them. Ideally, if you can add a photo, all the better, but it doesn't have to be. Also, another approach is the 5-star rating, because people scan websites, right? They don't read them. So just by looking, it's like, oh, look at all the 5-star reviews this guy has. Even if they don't end up reading what the people wrote, nonetheless, the whole idea of seeing the 5 stars, it's just visually people get it. They have a lot of 5-star ratings. And thank you again to whoever had the suggestion to have video testimonials, without a doubt. If you can get your customers to look into a camera and say how wonderful they enjoyed your services and what an impact that you've had on their business and all that fun stuff, that is a home run, without a doubt. But maybe you have them already, but if you don't, without a doubt, consider adding testimonials. All right, guys, we are down to the last one. Keep your contact forms short. So what am I talking about? We all have, I would suspect that you have a contact form on your website. You want to keep it to a handful of fields. This is a terrible example. This is a wedding photographer who's asking way too much information up front Okay, so, my name's Mia, what's your name? Okay, that's cool. What's your darling's name, your spouse to be? You don't need to know that kind of stuff. Who's coming to the wedding? Are you kidding? And how did you hear about me? You can ask that question once you have them on the phone. You don't have to have them put it up front. This will hurt conversions. So rule of thumb, fewer fields equals more conversions. Just keep that in mind. So take a look at your contact form now. If you're asking 7 questions, take a machete to it and try to knock it down to just a handful, because for every field you add, you're going to lose a certain percentage of people. They're just not going to fill it out. It's too much resistance. The expression is you want a frictionless experience. And so asking a name and email address, that's fine. Ideally, just a first name. People are usually not, obviously, reluctant to give that. But anyway, something to look at on your own websites. Fewer fields equals more conversions. So that, in summary, is every website should be considered a work in progress. So business owners notoriously create a website, tick the box and say, I'm done, and they move on to their day-to-day responsibilities, which is understandable. They're busy. And they never look back. They never look at their website again. It might be 4 or 5 years old. And you really got to look at your website periodically with a critical eye for some of the things that I mentioned. How can we do it better? How can we make it more engaging? How can we convince people to stick around? How can we build trust? All those things. And if you do that, it's going to result in higher rankings. You're going to hopefully get longer customer visits. You're going to build more trust. You're going to get more conversions. And ultimately, you're going to have an edge on the competition because, let's face it, everyone's looking at not just you, but your competition as well. So you need to convey professionalism. You need to convince people that you are the expert in your particular field. And that could be the difference between bringing in clients and not. So, guys, there you have it. Again, my name is Mike Smays. I'm the owner of Customer Journey Pros. This is my contact information. For those in the room, you can grab my business card here on the table. But don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions after the fact, even if you think of them tomorrow in the coming days. Or if you have any type of questions, love to talk to you and help you out in any fashion. I work with small businesses day in, day out in this area. I love it. And I love giving this type of free advice. Hopefully this has been helpful. Adam, any questions online?
Yeah, we have a few questions here. First one, how do you do testimonials if you're brand new?
Ask your brother or cousin or no. It's a great question. You might have to hold off on testimonials. I mean, I would like to think that within a relatively short order of doing business, you're going to get somebody who has either used your product or service and could speak to it. I was kind of kidding about the relatives, but I mean, if you are, whatever product or service you're selling, I got to believe somebody can say something nice about it. And so I don't think, even if you have somebody who, again, you don't want to make them up, obviously, but at the same token, I got to believe you can find somebody who, can say something nice about your product. I never use last names. I already said this, I know, but I always, I always put first name, last initial. If I can add the company, all the better. But it limits people's resistance to putting testimonials. When it comes to testimonials, a little sidebar, if you don't already have a Google business profile, I know this isn't what we're here to talk about, but I'll just give you some quick free advice. If you don't have a Google business profile, you absolutely have to get one. It's free. The other thing is make sure you have testimonials. That's where you want to add them because that will help you bubble up in the rankings. I know I'm going off script, but bear with me, it's worth it. So try to get as many testimonials as you can. You can get the link to send people from your Google business. There's actually a URL. Once you log in, you can then send it to people and say, hey, can you give me a testimonial? Just don't tell them. Here's another tip. Don't tell them what to say. If you give any indication that you want, you say, give me a good review, or hey, can you give me 5 stars? Google will pick up on that and actually not show your review. That's been proven time and again. I lost about 4 reviews because I said, hey, tell people what a great website you have, and they won't show up. Fact. You got some more, Adam?
Oh, yeah. So got one response here to this one, that this person says she's done free services for people in order to get the testimonials.
There you go. Great suggestion. Yeah.
Okay, next question. For an e-commerce site, would you suggest to use Contact Us primarily while selling physical products? If not, what are some other good examples?
Say that again. When selling an e-commerce, when selling products, e-commerce companies.
Yeah. Do you use Contact Us primarily while selling physical products? Otherwise, what else?
So Contact Us typically would be a service. So, you know, if you're a plumber, a roofer, a dog walker, a tax accountant, it doesn't matter. You want somebody to reach out and actually contact you. But if you're an e-commerce company, chances are your whole primary goal is to get them to buy something.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little unclear of the question, because really the conversion you're after with a e-commerce company, of course, is to make the sale. And so you really don't, presumably you don't want them just reaching out to you to ask questions. Whereas you do if you're some sort of service-oriented, you know, engineering company or whatever your service might be, you do want them to call, either fill out the form or to pick up the phone.
What if they have a question about the product?
Oh, heavens, yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Then sure, if they need more information, and again, that's why FAQs is a good thing to put, because you can preemptively put a lot of those out there. I was working with a company up in New York City that does, they give soccer training, soccer camps and what have you, and she said she's inundated with the same questions over and over again. People are saying, oh, what happens if it rains? You know, do you reschedule? And she's fielding the same questions time and again. I said, put an FAQ section up there just to answer these questions. Oh, do I need to bring orange slices for my kids? So the point is, for when it comes to product questions, you might be able to preemptively answer a lot of those, like, oh, do you offer free shipping? Yes, we do. Or what is your return policy? Well, here it is. Or, you know, a lot of the product related questions that people are going to have, and my suspicion is that they get the same questions time and again. So hopefully, what time? What?
Question.
Oh, question.
To that, would you solicit product reviews from people who purchased from you?
Oh, yeah.
As testimonials in place of the service testimonials?
Oh, absolutely. Sure, sure. I mean, there again, you know, we all shop on Amazon. We all look at reviews, at least I assume we do. I know I do. Mm-hmm. And without a doubt, try to get Shopify and all the different e-commerce platforms gives you the ability the person can put a review on the individual products. Like, oh yeah, I bought this belt, I bought these loafers, I bought this whatever. And they can put the reviews right there. But even if you have your own products, well, of course it's all going to be your own products, but even if it's a general review, without a doubt, solicit reviews. The more testimonials / reviews you can get, the better. It lowers people's concerns and it lowers the risk of them. It could be the difference between them pulling the trigger and not. Yeah, thank you, Marianne.
You know, and that takes us to, you know, the flip side here. How do you respond to poor reviews?
Good question. So, a couple things. When it comes to Google Business, your Google My Business profile, if you get a negative review, and I'm so glad whoever asked that, thank you. Do not get into a conflict with a customer online. That is a big no-no. So I'm currently working with a company, not a company, but a restaurant in Wilmington. And this guy, the business owner, was so upset because somebody left him a 1-star review. And he said, oh, I know that person, I can't believe it, and I said, dude, time out, do not get into a fight with a customer on your Google page, because you're not gonna win. It's gonna end up backfiring. So always be diplomatic. Somebody leaves a a negative review as far as your Google, without a doubt, just thank them for the review, or thank them, you know, sorry you had a negative experience, we'd love to make it right, please feel free to reach out to me at this number or independently or whatever. But just be very cordial, be very professional about it, but by no means don't fire back and say, well, yeah, you know what, that's what you ordered and that's what we shipped, and you know, how can you say that's wrong? You're gonna lose that fight. So just say, just diplomatic. Again, sorry you had such an experience. Now, obviously, if someone were to send in a negative review, you're not gonna post it on your website, so you have control over that. The only thing you don't have control over is what people say online, either about the product. If they just leave a negative review about the product, that I don't think you can do much. I don't know as if Shopify and some of those other platforms give you the ability to even counter what they're saying. But Google, your Google business profile, without a doubt, you can go in there and reply, which, by the way, on those lines, good or bad, including good reviews, always reply. Thank the customer. If someone takes the time to write a positive review, thank them, because it's not only the right thing to do, but Google loves it. It shows that you as a business owner are engaged, and it'll help you in the rankings. Everybody who leaves me a review, I'm like, oh, thanks so much for that, and which is a good thing to do. But hopefully that addresses the question. Never, just keep it diplomatic and short. And, apologize, sorry we didn't meet your expectations, anything like that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question. Are there plugins that exist to allow you to pull Google reviews into your site? Yes.
Yep. I don't know any by name, but I've seen a lot of websites that have live reviews on it allows you to put live reviews on your website. The downside to that is you as a business owner, some of you are nodding, you know where I'm going with this, you lose control as a business owner, okay? So I want the ability to post the reviews that I want to post. And if you just have a live stream of Google going to your website, sure enough, if the most recent review you got happens to be a 1-star, which, by the way, I've seen that. I've absolutely seen where just by bad luck, the most recent review is 2-star or something like that. And until the next person puts, a 5-star, you're gonna be staring at that 2-star. Of course, you'll see some other ones. But you run a risk. So the short answer is yes, there's plugins. Yes, it absolutely can be done. I personally don't recommend it unless you are really confident that it's that it's going to do the trick. Guys, we're running overtime. I think we got to call it a wrap.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been told that that's it. Hopefully, if we didn't address some of your questions, go ahead and email me again. My email address is listed here. Feel free to call me or email me in the coming days. Happy to address any of your unanswered questions. There's a couple other slides.
Yeah, just a moment. So we do have a poll for the folks online. Unfortunately, I forgot to bring the questionnaires for the folks in the room. So your opinions don't count. Please tell us how we did. And let me move this off to the side here so you can see. Actually, I can't do that.
Oh, do I have to see that? They didn't meet your expectations? I don't want to look.
Oh, yeah. So,
if it says no, just tell me it says yes.
All right. So, anybody is interested in obtaining a score entry? Gotta look. That's the problem with doing these hybrid. Everybody sees these live,
One person.
Yeah, I can.
3, 4. Come on, baby, you can do it.
So, to request mentoring, you can go to our website, which is hidden from you, but we'll get back. We'll get that back to you. You can call us, go to our website, and you can pick your own mentor from a list that we have online with everybody's expertise, or we can do the matchmaking for you. Our admin will be happy to line you up with somebody with expertise in your specific area. Again, you'll get on our mailing list now to get notification of future programs that we offer as they come along. And so to thank you all for your attendance today, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And please fill out the poll before you sign off.
All right, and thanks again, guys. All right.